Hi everyone, welcome to Tom's Manshed. So this is a video, it's part 2 of a 2-part video explaining the new firmware that's available for the Hikvision Colorvu Generation 2 cameras, giving you the facility to switch the LED light on via movement, which is a facility with a lot of people have wanted for a long time. Now, if you haven't seen part 1 of this video, click the link up here, and I'll put a link at the end as well. That explains the difference between the old firmware and the new, and where to get the new firmware from, how to download it and how to install it. This video is about the actual using it and all the selections that are now available to you, re-triggering the LED lights with motion. Now, I didn't mention in the first video that I got this camera, my latest one. I've just bought a Generation 2 Colorvu, bought it at the end of last year because I loved the Generation 1s so much. I bought an additional one to put down the side of the house, and I got it from the guys at a place called CCTV Empire, where I got all my other ones from, as I did with me NVR. And as I explained in that video that I did last year on the Colorvu cameras, the service these guys provide is fantastic. They're brilliant with support. If you buy the stuff from them, they'll give you support for a year via email and that, and they can even link up with your computer live and check the settings and do any settings if you're confused. And if you're like me, there's a lot to be confused at, and there's a million settings to set, as you'll know, in the Hikvision menus. But like I said, the service they give is great. They respond to email really quick, and I can't recommend them strongly enough. If you get your cameras from places like eBay and Banggood and AliExpress and stuff like that, returning them under warranty is a nightmare. Support is non-existent. You could be getting a grey import with not the proper European firmware in there, so I definitely wouldn't advise it. I'd advise getting one from a proper CCTV shop like CCTV Empire, who will give proper support. So we'll get onto this now, and I've also been asked to point out how you actually, from your web browser, how you actually get the web browser if you've never used that yet, and from there how you get the hyperlinks to each individual camera, which you're going to need to get into that camera to install the firmware. So I'll explain in this video as well how you get into them, and we'll go into setting up the exclusion zones and the triggering zones for the camera and explain what they mean. I won't go into every single menu because there are loads and loads, but I will go into the main important ones that you can only set a certain area for the camera to trigger in. You can leave your recording as normal, the normal area that it always has been, but you can set the light to be triggered in a certain other area within that area. So that's the facility we've all been waiting for, and I'll show you in this video how the camera gets triggered in that area that we've selected and how it doesn't get triggered if something is outside the area. And I'll show you what the actual picture looks like with the light on and the light off, because in some cases it's better, like car number plates and stuff, with the light off. But we'll go into that now, and I'll show you how to select all the menus for that. Okay, so here is the opening screen of the NVR. Now, I have been asked to explain even how to get this screen up. So if you've never used a web browser to view your CCTV, this is how you do that. First of all, you're going to need the actual IP address of your NVR. Now, if you don't know that, you can go on the actual, sit next to your NVR with it plugged into a monitor and use its mouse to go through the menu screen direct from that, and you can get through all the settings to find out your web address of your NVR. Or you can use a program called SADP, which is this one here. You can download it. I'll put a link in the description because it's called SADP, and it automatically detects your online devices, Hikvision online devices. So there's mine here. It's this is me NVR. It's active, obviously, and this is the address you're looking for. So that address there, 192.168.0.11, is my IPv4 address of the NVR. So that's what you'd punch in to your browser. Now, for a long time, you've only been able to use Internet Explorer. But that's going on to Microsoft Edge now, and when you load it up, you'll get this screen asking you to install Edge and that. But if you stay on Microsoft Explorer, you can get that one. But you can also get a plugin now for other browsers. I normally use Firefox for all my web browsing, but I had a bit of trouble installing the add-on for that. So I used Chrome. So there you can see it on the Internet Explorer, and here you can see there is an add-on Chrome. It won't open direct from Chrome. You get this message about plugging in the downloading a plugin, and they never work from what I've experienced. So there is some sort of compatibility. You'd have to do some research. I don't go too much into it, but you can get a plugin that makes Google Chrome compatible with Internet Explorer, and then you can watch it no problem on there, which I've already done. But if you do a search on YouTube, there'll be instruction videos on how to do that. So as I mentioned in the part 1 of this video, if you don't know this already, there's a little tip. If you click down here, bottom right, where it says Start All Live View, if we click that, that automatically populates all the squares with your cameras on. So if we go into configuration and camera management, you'll see here these blue hyperlinks to the web address of each individual camera. Now again, I've been asked to show if you go into configuration here, over to the left, if you click on network, then click advanced settings, then at the top here, other, it's that box there, enable virtual host. So if you enable virtual host there, that's when you'll see them blue hyperlinks appear under camera management. So if we now click on camera management and go into, like I said, the only G2 camera I have is this sidecar. Click on that, open that, and type in password. And this is obviously now in the camera itself control. So all this is pertaining to is just that one particular camera. And we click on configuration. And this is what we're interested. Normally before, the only way to control the light was here on image, here under day night switch and that smart supplement light on and off at times and automatic and stuff like that. But now we've got this option to set it to come on with motion. So what we do is click here on the left, event, and as I skimmed over in part 1 of this video, this green box here is representing what we set up when we set up in the NVR. If you remember setting up where you want your camera to be triggered by the motion, the actual filming of it, the recording function, you have all the little red squares, and this is the area I've picked basically everywhere. I don't want it to record any sort of movement of spiders or birds or whatever there, but I do want this area here, if anything triggers it in that area, to record. But I don't want the light, I might not want the light to come on in all that area. If I do want the light to come on, you just click linkage method there, And if I click that box there, LED light, that will be triggered along with the recording function on anything in that area. So any movement in that area will trigger the light to come on. But say I only wanted the light to come on. I want it to record in that full area, but I only actually want the light to come on in only part of that area. So what you'd do for that is here, click Smart Event on the left hand side and Linkage Method. And once we click, as you see, there's no option there, but if we click Intrusion Detection there at the top, we've got this box here. If we click Linkage Method now, we've got our LED light option that we didn't have on the previous firmware. So if we go back to Area Settings, and you can draw this box. So I've got a shared drive. I want it to pick up, I want the light to come on when there's any movement really on this drive. But say I didn't want it to come on when the neighbour walked up her drive, but I only wanted the light to come on when somebody walked up my drive. What I do is do a box like that. So you put this box wherever you do. If I clear that box there, if you click clear there, clear all areas, okay, that's totally cleared it. And what we do now, we click detection area, and as we click, left mouse click, here, here, here and here, you can draw the box. So again, I could sort of start there, drag it out, click, drag it out there, click, and drag it out there, and that is now clicked as area 1. And you could select region. I could draw another region up here, 2, 3, and draw multiple regions if I wanted. So if you had, say, a bush that was blowing in the wind, or something that was constantly moving here, and you didn't want the light to be triggered by that, you could eliminate that from the area. So now the light will only get triggered in that area. Now here, max size and minimum size. Say there's regularly a squirrel runs up our drive, right? So I'm not bothered about the light coming on every time a squirrel or something small, a cat or something, walks up the drive. So if I clicked minimum size, I could draw a minimum size there, and if I clicked maximum size, I could click a maximum size. So it'll only come on if the camera detects something moving of at least that size and no greater than that size. So again, if you make a mistake, you just click off. So click minimum size, draw a little one like that there. I'm not bothered about a maximum size. Just leave it as to ignore a minimum size, but come on for everything else. But in certain circumstances, you might want to draw in a maximum size like that. If you change your mind, just click on maximum size again and it will clear it. So clear that minimum size, and I'll draw one, say, that big. So anything smaller than that will not trigger the light. And that's basically it. So I'm going to clear all these now, clear all areas, and I'm just going to draw this in. My car, as you see, is up the drive, but I'm going to do some tests to show you the difference with the light on and off at night. So I'm going to click the detection area to start here. Go right down to there, and I'm only going to do it on my drive. So later on, when it's dark, I'm going to walk up and down here to show you the light doesn't come on, and then I'm going to walk up and down here to show you the light does come on. And I can sort of walk down the street to show you it doesn't happen, even though it's detecting it for recording. But it should only happen as I walk into this segment here. So if you remember where these lines are. Now, at the moment, there is no means of stopping this light coming on during the daylight. You could set up an arming schedule here, so say from like 8 o'clock till midnight or whatever, just have it that on one linkage method, and then set up another schedule for another linkage method, because you can do, as well as these area settings, you can, here on intrusion detection, you can do this line crossing detection. And again, you would click enable there. Click enable and you'd draw. I've never actually done this. So you'd click on here and then you'd position these lines wherever when it only crosses a line. So you could rig up part of the schedule to do this and that and the other bit. It's a bit complicated. I'm just going to live with the light coming on during the day. So we'll leave it at that. So we'll unenable that. And so we've got intrusion detection, enable. It's only going to come on in that area and only when the object is bigger than that. Unfortunately, I can't demonstrate that without having a movable object smaller than that. And there's also these things up here, region entrance detection and exiting, but I'm not going to go. I would think in most cases this is the area we're interested in. Now, these ones down here, threshold, what that is sort of how quickly, I've experimented with this, and it's how quickly the light comes on. So I want it to be triggered immediately something goes into that area. But if you wanted a slight delay, you would drag this up. So then when it moves into it, it seems to take longer to come on. I'm assuming I'm right with that. Again, you'd have to experiment with these things yourself. But if you just want it to come on instantly, somebody steps into that area like I do, you would leave that there. And then the sensitivity, again, I presume on just how sensitive it is. I want it to be very sensitive because all it's doing is bringing on a light. This light is not going to annoy, as you can see, it's not going to annoy any neighbours. There's no windows it's going to shine in there. Nobody's going to notice it the other side of the street. It's not a blinding floodlight or anything like that. So I'm quite happy with it on maximum sensitivity, and the threshold I want it to come on straight away. This target validity, again, I've not experimented with that. Basic and high, higher, highest. There's so many settings. Okay, so here is where you select as well. I forgot to add this, the duration of the LED light. So I've just got mine set at 5 seconds. You can do anything here from 0 to 90. And obviously can't be empty, so 5 seconds is plenty big enough for me. If we try anything more than 91, it'll come up with it range 0 to 90 seconds. So 5 seconds seems long enough for me. And then don't forget to click save at the bottom. So I've just added this. I came to edit the video and I forgot I'd not mentioned this. When I was doing the nighttime tests and walking down next door's drive, I found it was setting off the light, even though that wasn't in the yellow box that I'd laid out. And what I found was that it was my shadow that was setting it off. Because the street light is positioned behind me and puts my shadow, when I walk up next door's drive, it puts my shadow onto my drive. Even though I couldn't really see it at night with the naked eye, when I looked at the video, it was my shadow setting off. The camera was detecting that as movement and it was setting off. So if you find that you've rigged up an inclusion zone and you're in the exclusion bit and it's still setting off the light, just check it's not your shadow that's doing it. It took me a while to figure that lot out. I can probably get around it with setting the sensitivity and the threshold and the other box that's in that setting, messing about with all them settings. But just make sure, like I say, yeah, shadow, because it is so sensitive, the camera, and you do cast a shadow even with a small light, that it's not that that's setting it off. I'm now going to show you side by side differences between generation 1 and generation 2 firmware. There are slight differences in where some of the tabs are located, and there seem actually quite a few different locations, so it's not always easy to find, and particularly the way to adjust the light intensity. But as I'll explain in this next bit, the light intensity is not selectable when you're using this trigger it by motion feature, only when you're using the old trigger it by twilight or timed feature. I'll explain that fully in this bit and show you the two differences between the Gen 1 and Gen 2 menus. Okay, so like I said, there are quite a few differences. If we just go back to the live view screen, I'll just show you a few of these with the two menus. On the left here is one of the generation 1 cameras that I got at the end of last year, and this one on the right with the front view of my car is the new generation 2 camera. So if we go into the configuration of both of these, and one thing that is definitely hidden is on the left, to alter, you can alter the intensity of the lights, the LED lights, but you can't on this new firmware if you're using the new feature where it can switch on with movement. So yeah, if we go into sort of like click image here and image there, we've got an extra item here, image parameters switch, and it's laid out differently, and event here and event there. These are the same. It shows you on that your as it appears on your NVR. On this it shows a green box. On the smart event setting, these are different here. You see, look, we've got on the old one, we've got scene change detection, that's the same, then face detection. On the new one it says intrusion detection, then it's intrusion detection on the old one, and line crossing and unattended baggage, and on this it's line crossing, region entrance, region exiting. So there are various different screens, as well as the, like I said, the main difference is the actual appearance of the LED light there on the new one. So one difference is where you set the intensity of the light. Now, you cannot set the intensity, or I haven't found a way of doing it. If I'm wrong, please correct me in a comment, but I'm pretty sure you cannot set the intensity of the LEDs when you're using this new function where it's switched with motion. It just seems to be a preset brightness, and you cannot alter it. If you're using the old method where it comes on and off at certain times, or it just comes on at dusk when it's getting darker, you can alter how bright that light is, but you can't seem to on this new method. I'll just show you where the two settings for the brightness are. On the left, again, we have the generation 1 camera, and on the right here the new generation 2. Now, to set the light intensity on the old one, you selected system here and external device. There is no external device choice on that, so we get into it via a different menu. I'll show you that shortly, but that's where you can adjust the LED brightness and the timing and the sensitivity and the filtering in this, and enable it or not. So Like you see, LED brightness there. In the old one, we can alter it from 100 down to 0. Say I don't have them enabled, so I don't use this, but that's where the settings were for the generation 1. But over here you can see there isn't that external device tab available, so you have to click on include system here, image, and under display settings at the top here is your brightness of the LED control under here. So like I said, there are many other different ones. If we click on image here, you know, we can, these extra icons. So I haven't investigated every screen on the new firmware, but you will find things are in a different place. But I just wanted to point out that the intensity of that light is not adjustable for this new feature, the motion, which is a bit disappointing really, because I feel it is a bit too bright in certain circumstances and it can wash a face out. Okay, so let's have a look now at some nighttime footage with me demonstrating the triggering effect in the zone and how it doesn't trigger out of the zone, and also to compare how good the face looks of, say, a suspect on your land with the light and without the light, and compare which actually looks best. Okay, so this is with the light disabled. It's just to give you a comparison. So this is me walking up next door's drive with my fleece on, so I'm quite dark, just as I presume an intruder would be. And this is me walking up my drive, just to show you a bit closer to the camera. Like I said, the light at this stage is disabled. The only light there is the street light on the other side of the road on the corner, which is a tiny little LED light. As you can see, I'm stopping here to look at the camera. If you remember what the facial features look like, that's with no light whatsoever. So I'm now taking my fleece off, and as you can see, it's raining, so I hope you lot appreciate what I do to make these videos. But this is just to give a bit more colour and show you what how it picks up the colour at night. So this is now showing you the light in operation. As you can see, as I walk down next door's drive, nothing happens. I've got my top off again here. As you can see, as I step over into my drive, that triggers the light. Now, as you can see, the colours are a lot brighter, but the face is washed out. I think the facial features are not as good as they are without light. And again, the number plate is totally unreadable because it's reflecting the light. Don't forget, these LEDs are very, very tiny LEDs. It's not much of a light to the naked eye. So although making movement look better and that, it is definitely more washed out the face. And here's again with the jacket back on. You can see the facial features, to my mind, aren't quite as clear. You can see them, but particularly close to the camera there, it's washed out. So as you saw, particularly in that last shot, when the light comes on, the two LEDs, it is very, very bright for the camera. It's not bright to the naked eye like a massive floodlight security light like I've got on the front and the back, but it is pretty bright for the camera, being so sensitive. And with mine camera being right up against the wall and the white UPVC window, I just saw I'm getting a lot of reflection, light reflection off that. So as I mentioned earlier on, you cannot adjust the intensities of that light when you're triggering it with motion. But one way you can do it, and I experimented with this and I found it quite effective, is to just cover up one or one and a half of the LEDs with a bit of gaffer tape. So I'm just going to show you this sequence now. The first is one LED covered, the one that's nearest the UPVC window, and you will see that the resolution of the face, or the lack of glare in the face, is a lot better than with 2 LEDs on, where the face gets washed out. And then again, I cover up 1.5 LEDs, so finally I've just got half an LED showing. But even that is enough to increase the resolution on the face much more than without any light whatsoever, and all the glare from the window, as you see, disappears. The only disadvantage of that is it's not as much as a deterrent when somebody walks up your drive. When the 2 bright lights come on, they're alerted more than when one half and the LED, which is quite dim, comes on. But it is still a light and they're aware something is going on. So you might want to experiment around yourself, covering it up, not covering it up, whatever. It's one of them things that you've got to really experiment, doing different things, different settings. But the covering it up tape is an option, as you'll see here. So here we see one LED totally taped over. The LED that's nearest the wall is now totally covered with gaffer tape. You can see the face resolution is much better. We're still getting a lot of glare off that white window though. But it's definitely better than with both LEDs on. And here we've got 1.5 LEDs taped over. So there's only half an LED exposed. And all that glare has now gone from the window. But there's enough light off just that half an LED to increase resolution on the face, and it is much clearer than with no LEDs or than with 2 LEDs. So as you saw there, it is just covering it with tape can be quite effective. Like I said, I don't need a big security light there. I've got a double flood one at the front, a night watcher, and I've got the same night watcher at the back. I did a review on them a while back last year. They are brilliant lights. I could highly recommend them. I'll put a link to them on Amazon below, and they're great. They really flood the whole of the front of the house and the back of the house with light when they come on. But I've no security light up the side, and that's why this new feature is useful for that. But before I do the final summing up and outro, I can't resist just showing you again how good these cameras are. Now, so as a comparison, I've done a side-by-side comparison with the Canon M50, which I'm filming this on now, that I do all these videos on. Pretty wide open. The settings are 1/15th shutter speed, so a pretty low shutter speed. f3.5, that's as far open as the aperture will get, and a high ISO of 6400. So that, as you can see, is set for pretty low light. It'll be a grainy shot, but even so, you'll see how dark that looks with me walking up the drive on the same night, and side by side I will have the footage from the Colorvu cameras, and the front and the rear Colorvu cameras have not got the LEDs on. You'll see the side one come on as I walk up the drive, but the others, no LEDs whatsoever, only the lights from the street light and the one tiny one at the back and some fairy lights. I'll explain that in the video, but just have a look at this, how good these cameras are in almost pitch blackness. So this is filmed with my Canon M50, and I've put the settings on the screen. It's a pretty wide open shutter. It's as far as it'll go, f3.5, 1/15th shutter speed, so very slow, and a high ISO of 6400. And you can still see how dark it looks compared to the Colorvu. None of the LED lights are on the Colorvu cameras. This is the only lighting there is. You can see just very dim LED street lighting, and this is the two side by side. So like I said, look at them settings of the Canon M50 on the screen to see it's set in a really low light function. This is me coming up the drive. The side cameras picked me up. Now I've not done a side by side of these because you'd miss a lot of the wide view, but you can see again how black it is at the back of the house. That's my shed with the light on inside. The only light is that LED street light in a street at the back of the house behind a bungalow, and them little lights there are little fairy lights on one of the neighbours' houses, and that's how dark it is to the human eye. And yet that is what the Colorvu camera is seeing as I'm filming that bit there. Again, the LEDs on the Colorvu are not on at the moment. This is just exactly what it's picking up in that black conditions, and you can see the time. It's nearly 11 o'clock at night. It is absolutely black. It's a cloudy sky, and the only light was that LED and them fairy lights. Okay, so you could see again in that footage how great these cameras are. I know I keep harping on about it, but they're still amazing with their nighttime performance. So yes, I would definitely recommend one, and an already good camera has got even better with the release of this firmware. It is a bit disappointing that you can't adjust the intensity, and again, like I said before, if I'm wrong, if there is a method of increasing or decreasing, I should say, the intensity of that light and still having it switched with motion, let me know, because from what I can see, all the intensity settings get overridden when you select this motion option. I've read in the Hikvision release with this firmware that it's supposed to come on at 50% and then ramp up to 100 or something, but it just seems to come on at the same brightness throughout the whole 5 seconds to me. And the only option I had was to cover it with tape, which is pretty effective. If you were in a farmland or something like that, in total pitch blackness, and you wanted to light up a field, then 2 LEDs would be ideal for that. So like I say, it's an added option, and it's welcome that it has come along. So to sum up, yeah, I would definitely recommend these cameras, and I would recommend getting them, as I've said many times, from a reputable CCTV dealer like CCTV Empire, where I got mine. You will not get any support from buying it from AliExpress or Banggood or anywhere like that, eBay. So price doesn't really matter, and these guys are competitive on price anyway, and that extra support is very, very welcome. So I hope it's been of some use, this video, in setting everything up. There'll be loads more coming. Oh, I forgot to add, I'm up to 980 subscribers now. So if you already subscribe, a big thank you for that. But it'd be great to reach that magic 1,000. I know that's tiny compared to most YouTube channels, but to me 1,000 is a big deal. And like I say, big thanks to anybody who's already subscribed. So if you do want to subscribe, and there's going to be loads more reviews coming along, any gadget that takes me fancy, from Lidl's or Aldi usually, or Amazon, and CCTV stuff and 3D printing stuff, if there's anything new, I will do a video on it. So if you want to subscribe, click the little icon of the shed here. Loads more in the pipeline. Thanks again for watching. Bye for now.